America is back, ready to lead the world, not retreat from it.
Multilateralism is back. Diplomacy is back.
We can't solve all of the world's problems alone. We need to be working with other countries. We need their cooperation. We need their partnership.
Although Biden claims America is back, he did run on a platform that included protectionist measures that could impact Canada. For more on that, I'm joined by Kirsten Hillman, Canada's ambassador to the U.S. She's with us from Washington. Hi, Ambassador. Good to have you back on the program. Thank you very much for making the time.
Hi, Vashi. Thanks for having me.
I wanted to start off with President-elect Joe Biden and something he said a few times since being elected, and that is a term that many Canadians are familiar with. America is back. They're, of course, familiar with it in a Canadian context. Based on who he has chosen for some key foreign policy roles, if you were to sum up for Canadians watching tonight what you think Joe Biden's foreign policy will be, what would you say?
I think Joe Biden is going to have a foreign policy of engagement and working closely with allies. I think he has some really important appointments, people we know well, we've worked with before, who are deeply committed to showing U.S. leadership on the world stage for peace, for democracy, for climate change and health issues. I think we're going to see a much more present United States on the world stage and a much more close collaboration with allies.
The transition is underway. Certainly we're waiting until January, until the inauguration takes place for the administration to take hold. But based on your conversations so far with that transition team, are you concerned about Buy American proposals, for example, that were made during the campaign by Joe Biden?
Yeah, so Buy American as a policy isn't new. We've seen it here in the United States before. It's both parties, Democrats and Republicans, bring forward these policies from time to time and talk about them from time to time. I think that our job has to be to bring the facts to the table around Buy American and to demonstrate that adopting those policies with respect to Canada, at least, and that's my job, is to talk about Canada and Canadian interests, is going to slow their economic recovery, is going to make it more complicated for them. And we have lots and lots of facts that we can bring to demonstrate that, including the fact that when Canada exports a product to the United States, it contains on average about 25% U.S. content. So trade with Canada directly supports millions of American jobs, and that's what they need right now.
Certainly those facts have been presented to the previous administration by yourself and by your colleagues on numerous occasions. They didn't always persuade President Trump. Do you have the sense, or is it your instinct based on your conversations, that the conversation will change because a different person is in office?
Yeah, I guess the first thing I would say is that I think in large part they did serve us well, those arguments and those facts, I should say, in the NAFTA negotiations. It was the rising understanding, not just here in Washington, but probably more importantly across the United States, of the importance of free and open trade with Canada that got us to the agreement that we have, which is in fact a really good agreement for Canada and reinforces Canada-U.S. trade. So I do think that they maybe didn't work in every single instance, but I think that largely they did work. And I am quite confident that they're going to work again with the incoming administration, because they really do speak for themselves. Well, we have to say them, but they do. They're very compelling arguments when you bring them forward. They really are.
And I'm also wondering, and certainly I wasn't trying to say that they failed or anything like that. I just know in some instances, for example, with aluminum, they didn't necessarily persuade the president. What did work in Canada's favor often, though, was conversations that took place outside of the White House with members of the Senate, for example, or members of Congress who are more perhaps aware of the relationship as far as trade is concerned with Canada. Do you think that, depending on what happens obviously in the Senate race, but do you think, looking at Congress and Senate and the makeup of it now, that those checks will continue to exist going forward?
Yes, absolutely. Because here we do foster, and of course our relationship with the administration is crucial, but our relationships on the Hill are very important as well, because they are a very strong component in what the government is able to implement in terms of policies. And so we will continue to bring those facts to the Hill. And we do have also strong relationships with governors and local governments that are very important to this administration and to colleagues in Washington. And they're at the front line of trying to create jobs in their communities. So oftentimes those voices can be very, very effective as well.
That leads me to my next question on another issue that I think is of importance to a lot of Canadians. That's Keystone XL. Our viewers will be familiar that President-elect Joe Biden during the campaign promised to rescind the presidential permit. In your conversations with his team, what have they said when this issue comes up? Do they plan to continue on that trajectory?
So we are working really closely with the federal government, with the Alberta government, with industry to bring to the advisors to Biden and also to lawmakers across the United States the facts about this project. You know, that this project, from a sustainability perspective, from a safety perspective, from a jobs perspective, from an energy security perspective, is the best. We are the best partner for the United States in this regard. And we talk about it in the context of the overall Canada-U.S. energy relationship, which I think is really important and really exciting, in particular with this incoming administration. You know, we're the #1 supplier of uranium to the United States. There's huge hydroelectric capacity that is going to be very important, I think, for the Americans in order to meet the Biden administration objectives with respect to carbon reduction. We have great fuel cell technology and innovation that we're eager to work with them on. So there's an entire energy partnership conversation that we're having. And energy infrastructure projects like Keystone are a crucial component of that. And so that's what we're trying to bring. I feel that we're being listened to. I think that it's a conversation that's going to have to continue. But we're making the facts known.
I'm just curious, when you say listen to, how open to bending on this do you think the administration will be? I think, because of, for example, the appointment of John Kerry in that key climate role for the administration, someone who was pretty integral in rejecting Keystone the first time around. Has there been any willingness signaled on the part of anyone in the administration to you that they might not follow through on that promise?
Yeah, so just to be really crystal clear, appointees and nominees of the Biden administration are very respectful of the fact that there's only one U.S. administration at a time, and it's the Trump administration right now. So those individuals are not engaging with foreign governments. We talk to advisors, we talk to some members who are advising the transition team. We have, in weeks past, talked to some members of the transition team. But those key individuals are being, as I say, very respectful of the U.S. process. And so we're getting our facts in through various channels, but those direct conversations are still coming up.
Okay, Ambassador, I want to switch gears just before I let you go. We talked to Democratic Senator Chris Coons a few weeks ago, who's a key Biden ally in the Senate. And I was asking him at the time about a report out of the Wall Street Journal, which indicated there were conversations taking place between Meng Wanzhou's, the CFO of Huawei, Meng Wanzhou's legal team and the Department of Justice in the United States that would involve some sort of deal of Meng Wanzhou going back to China, but admitting some kind of wrongdoing. Here's what Senator Coons had to say, and then I'd like to get your reaction.
I was encouraged to see that there were negotiations being pursued. I would hope that would not happen without a guarantee of the release of the 2 Canadian citizens who've been held unjustly for so long. I do think that, on the world stage, we do need to look. We need to look more carefully at the human consequences, at the bilateral consequences of actions taken by the U.S. government, and make certain that our Canadian friends and allies recognize from our actions, just how grateful we are for the way in which you've stood alongside us in this particularly challenging chapter.
Are you encouraged, Ambassador, like Senator Coons is, to hear that negotiations might be taking place between Meng Wanzhou's legal team and the Department of Justice?
So first of all, I think I'm really grateful for Senator Coons to have made those comments to you, and I took note of them at the time, and we are very appreciative of them. One thing I'd like to say to you is that there is not a single substantive conversation that I have with a lawmaker here in the United States, whether it's in the administration or on the Hill, where the issue of the arbitrary detention of the Michaels doesn't come up, where I don't bring it up unless they get to it first with me. So this is an issue that is very central to Canada-U.S. bilateral relationships. And I have, without one exception, received only support from every single American lawmaker I've talked to. So the U.S. is deeply committed to helping get us to a place where the arbitrary detention of the Michaels is resolved. I am 100% confident in that, and I'm also confident that the incoming administration will be equally as committed.
Are you encouraged, though, that those conversations between the Department of Justice and Meng Wanzhou's team are going on?
Yeah, so I'm not going to comment on that. I don't feel that that's appropriate for me to comment.
Why not?
Well, because those are conversations between the Department of Justice and Madam Meng. If those are taking place, that's their that is their process, and I want to be sure to not do one single thing that could interfere with that in any way if those conversations are taking place and if that is a positive thing.
Do you think it's possible for this to be resolved, for Michael Kovrig and Michael Spavor to be released from Chinese detention without some kind of U.S. intervention?
I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know. I think that we have a judicial process that is ongoing, and we will continue to pursue, as we always have, this matter according to the rule of law and Canadian processes. That's what's in our control. We will also continue to call for the immediate release of the Michaels because they have been unfairly and arbitrarily detained. That is also within our control. We will work with our allies to encourage the Chinese government to release, including the United States, to release the Michaels. That is within our control. Negotiations between the U.S. government and another party is not in our control.
Okay, Ambassador, I appreciate your time. As always, thank you so much, and happy holidays to you and your family.
Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power and Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.